Alright, so today we're going to do a little instructional video on how to adjust the brakes for your kids' bikes. So we've got a little Hint freestyle awesome bike with the pegs we can see here. So this is going to be a good bike to show because there's two different styles of brakes on here. So you can see this first one comes to the side here and you squeeze it, that's the part that moves. So what we're trying to do is make sure that it comes off evenly. So you can see on this one, this side pushes off a little bit more than the other. So that's what we're going to adjust here. To adjust that is this right here. Basically what this is going to do is control this, which controls how much this rocks back and forth when you pull it. So in order to do that, all you're going to do is you're going to center this where it's centered and then turn this. So just a little tool here. If I had an extra hand, you would center it and then tighten right here. So we tighten there. Let's see if that did anything for us. It's a little closer, not much. But with two hands, that would do the trick. The other thing that you want to make sure of, this goes for all the different brake styles and systems that you have on a bike. So right here, we want to make sure that that brake pad, when it's compressed, depressed, whatever that word is, that it's going to line up with the rim. So if you can tell here, when it comes, we want it to be, that might be too close, we want it to be flush all the way on there. So the best way to do that, I feel, is to run your finger along the bottom when you push the brake in. So when you have it here, run your finger along the bottom and you should just barely feel the brake. You don't want to feel too much of the brake because then the brake's going to wear out at the top and it'll catch on the bottom. And same thing if it's too high. So you adjust that right here, you loosen that, and you can go up and down. Some of the nicer bikes have different variances here where you can move it this way and that way, which helps as well. But you want to make sure it's nice and flush and flat. That's going to extend the life of the brakes. So you're going to do that on all four brakes, two in the front, two in the back. So same thing here. You push it in, and then with your other hand you feel underneath, just to make sure that it's flush, like flush here is basically what we're looking for, and that it hits it flat. The other thing to look out for is when you pull back the brake. This is personal preference. You want it to go, somewhere between here and here maybe for the full braking. Kind of depends on how nice of a bike it is. You can fine tune the brakes a little bit more. But for a bike like this, that's perfect. If it goes all the way back to the handle when you compress that, here's where you adjust it right here. So this is the brake wire. It has an inner casing here that's going to hide into the body. So this is where it's exposed. So if this pulls back and it pulls back too far, what you want to do is adjust it right here. So you're going to again come right here, loosen this, and then pull this up. Now this is a bit tricky to pull, so occasionally what I'll do is if you have someone else there, or if you're just really good with two hands, you pull the brakes in. So you can see I just did that, and what that's going to do is that's going to loosen this for you. So if you loosen this, pull the brakes, and then you can have a little bit more free room. So you would go like this. You would pull this in and then say, okay, that's where I want it. So then you pull that metal piece tight and then tighten it right here, and then that'll make sure there's not as much slack in the line. So then when you pull it back, that's what we're looking for. So that's that brake system. Let's flip the bike around, and the rear brake, excuse me. If you'll put up with the terrible camera angle for a second. So the rear brakes are a little bit different. So this is more of a traditional brake style here. So the rear brake, it comes like this. All right, let me just pull a brake for you so you can see it. Sorry again for the camera. Here you go. So again, we're looking for it to widen on both sides equally. So let's try that. See, there we go. Now I made the rear brakes a little bit tighter because that's normally what they're going to pull on, and it'll loosen up over time faster than the front, when they're trying to do tricks and ride out the back, whatever. So again, same thing. When you pull it tight, you want to make sure that this right here is flush, that the brake pad's not holding over, and do this when the brake is compressed and it's touching the rim. Also, you want to keep the rims clean. Don't touch them with your fingers too much. It gets oily and whatever there. And so these adjust a little bit differently. So if you need to move the brake pad up or down, let's see which Allen wrench is it. So this is an Allen wrench right here. That'll do the trick. And then, so these are a little more fun as well. So the other one, if you remember, had this middle screw, and that's how you would tighten and kind of adjust that spring there. This spring is built into this system right here. So you adjust it right here with this little screw. Now this is a game that you play where you're gonna tighten and loosen it, tighten and loosen on both sides and kind of figure it out. When I get stuck, we'll explain what you do with it, but when I get stuck, basically I'm gonna back out both screws. Thanks, Josky. Back out both screws to the same length and kind of start over. All right, so now here's the trick with the with these. So if you compress the brake and say this side was stuck in and then this side was the one that bounced out, so it kind of stopped like that instead of where it is even. There's two things you can do. One, you can tighten this spring, so tighten the screw and that'll help pull this back, or you can loosen this spring so it can equal out a little bit more. And then same thing, so if this one is the one that pops out, you can either loosen the tension in the spring or tighten it on the opposite side. And then that way, when you pull it back, you're looking for it to be equal on both sides. Now again, same thing here, if you compress the brake, let me show you how much I have this one going on here. So it's about the same as the left side, the front side, which is what you want. So if I were to pull that back and it hit the handle, this is where I would adjust it. So same thing, this is an Allen wrench. Wrong size of Allen wrench, but you get the point. So right there, you would loosen that. Same thing, compress the brake so you can pull this a little bit tighter. You could probably do it with just your hands without, the help of the brake. But you compress the brake, pull it a little bit tighter, and then re-tighten that. And that should do the trick for you. And you wanna make sure that there's just, yeah, you see that a little bit. You wanna make sure there's a little bit of space there. The nicer the bike, the less space you can have there, but for a kid's bike like this, that's what you're looking for. I mean, I could easily stick several pieces of paper. I just tried it with this little pamphlet we got in the mail, and you just make sure, I don't know if I can do it one-handed, here we go. You just make sure that can fit in there nice and easy so it doesn't get stuck. And that should do the trick. That's how you adjust kids' brakes